What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Nonfia, and today I'm here in Lost Relics to give you a tour of Talmuth. In this video, I'll be going over each and every aspect of Talmuth, so without further ado, let's get right into it. Before we begin our tour, I just want to show you what the map looks like by toggling the M button within Lost Relics. Toggling M allows you to take a look at the map, and this also applies to adventures. So basically, if this were a mall directory, we'd be right here. So I'm going to be taking you to each and every corner of Talmuth and explaining what you can do within the various areas of Talmuth. So once again, without further ado, let's get right into it. The first stop on our tour is the altar. The way you can tell that you're at the altar is by looking at the map and seeing the stone-like icon. Now with the altar, what you're able to do here is you're able to craft one of 4 scrolls. The first scroll you can craft is the Adventure Pass Teleport Scroll. The second scroll you could craft is the Inverted Teleport Scroll. The third scroll that you could craft is the Talmuth Teleport Scroll. And then finally, the last scroll you could craft is the Enchanted Isle Scroll. Now, I'm not going to spend time explaining what each and every item could do. You can simply stop by the altar yourself and hover over each scroll and see what each item can do. The next stop on our tour is the Engineering Bench. You can tell I'm at the Engineering Bench because when I hit M, wow, it says Engineering Bench right there. Pretty straightforward. So, what can you do at the Engineering Bench? Well, players here can craft items that can help them within their dungeon runs, such as crafting tools, bombs, leather armor, relics, and much more. Our next stop on the map is the Well. The Well is located right outside the tavern, and what's unique about the Well is that players can buy empty jugs from either the Royal Emporium or from Seraphina inside the tavern and fill the jugs up with water. Now, what's unique about this is players can either resell these jugs of water to other players, or they can use the jugs themselves on hide to create leather. The next stop on our tour is the Tanning Station. The Tanning Station is located right next to the Alchemy table. So, with the Tanning Station, you're able to turn hides into leather, but you need to meet the engineering requirements to make hide into leather. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So I just clicked on the tanning frame, and you can see here a good example of this is frayed leather. In order to make frayed leather, a player has to have level 1 engineering, as well as having 1 frayed hide and a jug of water to create frayed leather. Now what can you do with frayed leather? Well, you can hover over the item and you can see right here it says required to craft items in engineering, alchemy, and forging. If you're ever curious as to what a resource can be used for, feel free to hover over the item and you should be able to have the necessary details. So this is what the tanning frame looks like. Our next stop on the tour is the Alchemy table. The Alchemy table is located right next to the Tanning Station. Players are able to craft potions that can buff their characters when they're running dungeons. Examples of potions could be melee potions, range potions, magic potions, and much more. The next part of our tour covers the mill. The mill is located right next to the Alchemy table. What's important about the mill is that you're able to collect 20 sacks of flour a day. Now this is important because if you go to the skills book, sacks of flour are used in cooking, and not just beginner cooking, but cooking when you're level 10, level 28, level 38, and that's about it. But what's important here is if you're a new player, I strongly suggest you take the time out of your day to collect 20 sacks of flour. It takes maybe a minute tops. Now, as a new player, my suggestion would be to take your sacks of flour and make baked bread, so long as you have the jugs of water and you have the quail eggs. This is a really good resource for new players when they're doing dungeons to instantly restore 75 health and energy. So once again, if you're a new player or even an OG player, take that 1 minute out of your day to collect your 20 sacks of flour. Now that I filled up my inventory with sacks of flour, I need to now put them in my stash. Whatever shall I do? Well, look at this. There's a rift here. Now, this rift will take me directly to my stash in the tavern. How do I know that? Well, just due to experience. But also, if you look at the champion rewards, you'll see here that if you're level 9, you'll have the ability to use the Lighthouse Rift. The rift, once again, will take you back to your stash within the tavern. It's a very convenient way of moving around Talmuth without having to directly go from one place to another. Call it instant teleportation, am I right? So here's what it looks like by interacting with the rift. Look at that, right here on my stash, like I said before. The next part of our tour covers the Adventure Stash, and more specifically, the Adventure Stash inside the tavern. I'll cover more details on that later on in this video. But with the Adventure Stash, players are able to access it and interact with it by pushing E, and you're able to deposit items in your inventory to your stash. You're able to take items out of your stash and put it in your inventory. You're able to swap out armor, weapons, relics, tools, and even cosmetics such as outfits, morphs, pets, and even further cosmetics such as head, back, stash, and secret stash pieces. The next part of our tour covers the Armor Assembly Station. The Armor Assembly Station is located in between the stairs that lead to the second floor of the tavern and the Adventure Stash. Now, the Armor Assembly Station is unique because you're able to take pieces of armor that you've forged through forging and you're able to make complete armor sets. So in this case, if you wanted to make iron armor, you would need iron boots, the chest plate, the gauntlets, the helmet, and the plate legs so that you're able to assemble iron armor. Now, I said that you need to get these pieces through forging, but you're also able to get these pieces by purchasing them from the Royal Emporium. We're going to take a little segue in the tour and show you yet another rift. Remember earlier in the video when I took a rift from the lighthouse directly to my adventure stash? Well, here's yet another rift that takes you from the tavern directly to the adventure pass. I know this because of experience, and the way you can unlock this is, when I hit champion rewards, it says you need to hit level 7 to use the ability to use the Tavern Rift. So once again, if you hit level 7, well, congratulations, you'll be able to directly go from the tavern to the adventure pass. Our final stop on the second floor of the tavern is the spinning wheel. The spinning wheel is located directly next to the stairs that lead to the second floor of the tavern. With the spinning wheel, you're able to take Indamar Vine and turn it into bowstring. Bowstring is important because when you're looking to crafting virtual bows, you need to have bowstring in order to do so. So once again, you can see here that when you hover over the item, you can see that bowstring is required to craft items in engineering. Now we're here on the first floor of the tavern. The first floor of the tavern, there are 3 NPCs you can interact with. One is the Raffle NPC, where you're able to buy up to 10 raffle tickets costing 10,000 gold to get one of these unique prizes here. The second NPC you can interact with is Berinon. This NPC is used specifically for handling bounties, and more specifically exchanging bounty bucks for various items as shown here. And finally, you can speak with Seraphina, as I mentioned earlier before. Seraphina, again, is the vendor that you can purchase empty jugs from. But not only that, but you can purchase things like large flask, medium flask, vial, holy grail ale, white feathers, and flask of mead. Our final stop at the tavern is the basement of the tavern, and more specifically, the Crusher. The Crusher is important because you're able to turn bones or runes into bone dust and rune dust respectively. It's important that, similar to the tanning station, if you want to turn bones or runes into their various dusts, you need to have the alchemy level to meet that requirement. So, for example, if you watched my previous video on the beginner's quest guide, you'll know that you need to turn these sparkling volt spark runes into rune dust. And the way to do that is, 1, you need to have the level 1 alchemy level, and then 2, you need to have 10 sparkling volt spark runes to turn into 50 rune dust. Our next stop on the tour is the Royal Emporium. The Royal Emporium is located right across from the tavern, so let's get right in there. There are various NPCs you can interact with in here, but the most important one is Oliver. Oliver allows players to be able to buy and sell both virtual and blockchain items within the Emporium. Our next stop on the tour is Lost Relics housing. The housing is located right next to the Adventure Pass, which is very convenient. In order to unlock housing, players need to submit a white silver ring, crystal rosin, and a nebulon along with 1 million gold in order to unlock housing. Now, the benefits of housing are, as stated before, it's located right next to the Adventure Pass. You have access to your adventure stash, where I mentioned before there was an adventure stash in the tavern. Well, there's also an adventure stash here if you have Lost Relics housing, and you also get this convenient portal that takes you directly to Inverdun. You'll hear more about Inverdun in my next video, so look forward to that. Our next stop on the tour is the Adventure Pass, and there's 3 key things I'd like to talk about here. One being, of course, the Adventure Pass, the second being the Secret Stash, and the third being Gabreile. First, with the Adventure Pass, this is of course where players are able to do dungeons as they see fit. I'm currently carrying Legendary tiered items, so I would probably do a Legendary tiered dungeon just because I feel comfortable using Legendary items in a Legendary dungeon. Next, let's talk about the Secret Stash. This is where players are able to house certain items that they want to have here for convenience sake so that you're able to run dungeons back to back. Third, I'd like to talk about Gabreile. Gabreile is a unique NPC where you're able to give her items so that she can directly put them in your stash. Now, there is a small deposit fee, but it's worth it if you don't want to have to run all the way back to your stash. Now, in order to unlock your secret stash, you should know that you need to be level 3 in order to do that. In order to unlock Gabreile, I believe you need to unlock a unique quest line in order to do that, which is part of the beginner quest guide. Here we are at yet another segue in the tour as we've come across another rift in Talmuth. This rift takes you from the Adventure Pass directly to the Tavern. Now, this rift you're able to unlock at level 12. As noted here in the champion rewards, at level 12 you're able to have the ability to use the Adventure Pass rift. Here we are at the next part of our tour, the Lost Relics Graveyard. The graveyard is located right next to the Adventure Pass, and if you're a member, you're able to choose where you can resurrect when you die if you were to die in an adventure. So if I push this button here, it says you will now resurrect at the Talmuth Graveyard. So if you're playing the game and you're concerned that you may possibly die in a dungeon, it's probably best that if you're a member, you just make this spot your resurrection spot so that you're able to quickly transition and bounce back. Especially if you have Lost Relics housing, just directly access your stash here, quickly load up on consumes, and run back into a dungeon and do it all over again. We've made it to Terra Descent. Terra Descent is located between Adventure Pass and the Stove. The purpose of Terra Descent is that it's a unique gameplay mode where players are able to test their abilities and grind through floors 1 through 4 in hopes of obtaining unique virtual resources and potentially obtaining unique blockchain items. Now, the purpose of Terra Descent, as mentioned before, is for members and non-members to test their abilities, but also once a week, if you complete floors 1 through 4 successfully 6 times, you're able to obtain a Terra Vault. The Terra Vault contains unique resources and potentially unique blockchain items. So not only can you get these resources and blockchain items from doing Terra Descent, but you also have a chance to obtain them from the Terra Vault once a week. Our second to last destination here in Talmuth is the Cooking Station. The Cooking Station allows players to turn resources into consumables. These consumables allow players to increase their health, energy, or a little bit of both over time. Now, it's important to note that if you're a new player in Lost Relics, you should note that if you're doing a dungeon, you need to have consumables in your inventory if you wish to have increased health or energy while you're in the dungeon. So let's say that you're in a dungeon and you're down to 1500 health and 1500 energy. In order to increase your health and energy back to 2000, you need to have consumables inside your inventory. You can't access your stash inside an adventure. The way to access your stash would be to exit the adventure and then access your stash within the tavern, or if you have LR housing, access it through LR housing. So now let's say that you didn't carry any consumables inside a dungeon and you exit the dungeon with 1000 health and 1000 energy. You would need to wait over time for your health and energy to go back up to 2000, or you can use consumables to make it so that your health and energy get back up to 2000 readily so that you're able to do another dungeon once again. Our second to last segue is Emera Crossing. Emera Crossing is located on the corner of Talmuth next to the Stove. Now, I say this as a segue because I'm not going to go into details about Emera Crossing other than this is a pathway that leads to Verdant, which is going to be my next video coming up. And also, in order to access Emera Crossing, you have to reach level 24 as indicated in the champion rewards. As noted here, once you reach level 24, you'll unlock a quest line that gives you a tunnel to Emera Crossing. So that's all I'll say, and look forward to Emera Crossing in my next YouTube video. The final segue I'd like to cover before covering our final destination is these pink dots on the map. These pink dots are unique resources that you can collect while running around Talmuth. This is a great way for new players to obtain resources and obtain gold if they're looking to farm gold in the game. So if you ever see these pink dots available, there should be about 3 to 4 per day. Then I suggest that you go here to a pink dot, interact with it, and see what you obtain. In this case, this pink dot gave me 98 gold. Not bad. Last but not least, our final destination on the tour is the forging stations. So forging is essential for players to be able to craft weapons, armor parts, and even resources that are used in engineering. So let me show you what that's all about. First, you want to be able to have resources that you can use to craft into ingots. So for example, in this case, if you want to craft an iron ingot, you need to have coal and iron ore. The one unique thing about coal is that this is the common reagent for crafting all sorts of ingots. So let me show you. Vitrium ingot, coal. Silver ingot, coal. Meridium ingot, coal. So coal is an important factor here if you want to be able to craft ingots as you increase your forging levels. Now, let's say you've crafted iron ingots. What can you make with that? Well, you can find out by either clicking the skills book or by checking it out by clicking this anvil here. This anvil here shows you what you can make with iron. So iron can make you, again, unique resources that can be used in engineering, as stated here. You can make weapons, as shown here, or you can make armor parts, as shown here, to be able to use armor within your adventures. So that's basically it for my tour of Talmuth. I want to say thank you so much for checking out my YouTube video. I very much appreciate it. My next video, I'll be giving you a tour of Verdun. So if you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. I'd greatly appreciate it. And please be sure to also check me out on Twitch, as I love to live stream Lost Relics. Thanks so much and have a great day.